Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedlie, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. And we don't want you to miss an episode of the show. So please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is the author of I Can Handle It. Her name is Laurie Wright. Before Laurie joins us, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by With the Courage of a Mouse, the superhero school series written by Donna Sager-Cowan. Cat the cat wants a home, a family, and friends she can count on. When she suddenly finds herself in Sweet Meadows, a long way from the alley she calls home, Cat discovers she can talk, but she can't decide if she's dreaming or dead. Simon is a mouse, and he's having the worst day ever. Instead of celebrating his first day at superhero school, he's on the breakfast menu twice. A hawk considered him an easy meal, but quick thinking changed that. And now a cat wants to pounce. Well, not if Simon can help it. With a quick plan and matchstick, Simon speeds towards certain death. Will he arrive at superhero school? Join the entire superhero school gang for their first adventure with the Courage of a Mouse, the Superhero School Series, Book 1, a middle grade chapter book for ages 7 to 12. It focuses on courage, friendship, and finding the superhero inside all of us. The series touches on common life themes and challenges with humor, patience, and self-improvement techniques. With the Courage of a Mouse, the Superhero Series Book 1, written by Donna Sager-Cowan, is available wherever books are sold. Joining us on the line right now from Alberta in Canada, she is the author of the Mindful Mantras series. Please welcome to the show, Laurie Wright. Laurie, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really happy to have you here and to talk about the Mindful Mantra series. Why don't you give us a little rundown about what's going on?
Sure, you bet. So I started my career as a kindergarten teacher, and I taught for about 10 years. And over the course of that time, I noticed some troubling trends with my students. And the gist of it is 4 and 5-year-olds were arriving in my classroom each year not less and less capable, but they thought they were not capable, just as a result of their environments at home before coming to school. And so I spent a lot of my time trying to create their sense of capabilities and their independence and responsibilities. And one night I went home and I wrote a book. And it was about 12 years ago. And so, the Kindle was fairly new and the whole publishing landscape was a lot different 12 years ago. But I wrote the book, and then I had no idea what to do with it. And so I sat on it for about 10 years, and life progressed. I got married. I had 3 of my own children, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. And so I had seen that in the children at school, and then I was seeing it in my own children. Just, they don't always want to solve their own problems. Life is much easier if you just don't solve your own problems. But so I retweaked the book. I Can Handle It is the first book. So I tweaked it and got it out there and had such wonderful response from parents. And I realized the mental health of our children really is a huge issue, bordering on crisis status right now, I would say. And so I did a lot of research, and what I had learned as a teacher was reinforced with the research, and that's that repetition is huge for kids. You have to repeat. So in each of my books, the mantra is repeated. It's basically a positive affirmation. It's repeated every page, so for parents it can be a little bit boring, but I've also had the feedback that it helps parents as well. And I have a lot of people write to me and say, when are you writing the adult version of I Can Handle It? So the repetition helps a lot, and the positive aspect, and just that kids are capable. So the first book is I Can Handle It. It's frequently a bestseller on Amazon. It's been really well received, and there's 8 in the series now.
That's fantastic. And, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about. That whole idea of repetition. Yes, studies show that kids respond to repetition and they need the repetition. But if you spend any time watching the media, the folks at Coca-Cola know that. The folks at McDonald's know that. You're constantly seeing the same messages, the same commercials, the same messages woven into different commercials with slightly different people. But that, big business understands repetition really drives the point home. So we shouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Mm-hmm. Like, ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yes.
Right? All the 5-year-olds even know that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I just listened to another podcast about Sonic logos and the fact that corporations will, you hear doom, doom, doom. And oh, NBC. Yeah. And it's, all these things are, there's so many millions of dollars being spent and crafting commercials, crafting a message that can be repeated, creating a sound that will just, be in our subconscious that will remind us of a product. And I'm really happy that somebody is out there spending time creating books with a positive message for kids so that when they encounter difficulties in their life, they can hear, I can handle it. Yeah, I can handle this. I can do this.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happens. They read it on, 12 pages in the book or 24 pages, and it becomes their self-talk. Mm-hmm. And it really does work. My own kids are my test subjects, and they go around the house and they tell each other, can you handle it? Yes, I can handle it. And, it's just absorbed in there, assimilated into their brains. Mm-hmm. And it really does work. So they go through their life with this positive self-talk, and that's what we need more of to replace the negative self-talk for sure.
Yeah. Where do you think, because you said that you noticed a change in the kids as you were teaching. Where do you think that change, or what caused that change, do you think?
Well, I feel like it's a result of how our society has changed so much, and we're all busier, mm-hmm. than our parents, I would wager, mm-hmm. were. And what's easiest? The path of least resistance. Mm. So the path of least resistance is not forcing your child to learn how to tie their own shoes or zip their own zippers, because there's inevitable meltdowns, shutdowns, tantrums, and it takes more time mm-hmm. than if we do it for them. And so I think that's a large, large part of it. And, the connectedness has really gone downhill, even within families, I would venture to say. And so when you're not connected with the kids, you don't realize always what they need mm-hmm. for their own self-esteem, their own self-confidence.
Isn't that ironic? We're living in an age when humanity is more connected technically. Through technology. You and I, you're in Alberta, I'm in Boston. We're looking at each other. We're speaking to each other. This has never happened in the history of the world. Yet, you're noticing this disconnect amongst families.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is a tragedy. And mm-hmm. If it's happening in Alberta, it's happening in Massachusetts. I dare to say it's happening in every developed country.
Mm-hmm. I was just at a conference last weekend, actually, where a speaker was talking about technology, and he had one simple rule that I loved. It's so easy. If somebody else is in the room with you, put the technology down. Mm-hmm. If it's your phone, if it's your computer, whatever it is, if somebody else is there, you spend your time connecting with them, talking to them, spending time with them, and just put the phone away. And it was so simple, but it's not done, right?
It's not. And, it's funny. Just last night, my daughter and her boyfriend and I were in the living room, and it's like, there's a hockey game on, but it's not the Bruins. It's a couple of teams. And, and it's like, well, why don't we just talk? And it was great. It was like really, it really kind of baffled the guys. Me and my daughter's boyfriend were like, wait a minute. We're not going to watch men hit each other. But it was wonderful. We spent 3 hours just chatting with each other.
Oh, good. I love that.
Yeah. What about, are you seeing this? We've talked about this a lot on the podcast, and I don't know if it's happening in Canada, but a lot of parents seem to be extremely protective of their kids to the point where they don't allow them to take chances and risk failing at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, in comparison to the States, what the comparison is, mm-hmm. but it's definitely happening here as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So much fear among people, and kids have to take their chances, mm-hmm. and success or failure, it doesn't matter.
Right.
What they should be proud of is actually trying, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we have lost that message along the way for sure.
Now, is that one of the messages that we can find in one of the Mindful Mantra books?
Yes. So one of my latest ones from the fall is I'm proud of myself. And what I really tried to do was the character in the book isn't sure how the outcome will go of, say, moving up a soccer team, like moving up a level. Mm-hmm. I didn't put this in the book, but modeled after my own son, moving from rec league to competitive league, mm-hmm. How is that going to go? It's going to be harder. But what's important is you're proud of the effort you put in and not the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so the whole book really that was my intention anyway, trying to, and it helps parents as well because that gives them the language. Mm-hmm. You need to be proud of your child and encourage them to be proud of themselves, no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah. Yeah, here in the States, we have this thing in the whole, everybody gets a trophy and there are no winners, there are no losers. And that's, I had coached a competitive high school soccer team for many years and I played in college and high school and when my son was 6 or 7 years old, he wanted to play soccer and I went down, I was trying to stay, kind of low key, and someone recognized me and said, "Oh, you can coach one of the teams." And I said, So I went and, and then I discovered this is one of the leagues where they didn't keep score. And so I was trying to go around, I was trying to go with the flow, and we had a very, very challenged team. And, at the end of the game, the kids would be so depressed and go, "Hey guys, there's no score. We just had fun." But every one of those kids kept score. They knew. There's nothing that I could have said that made any difference to them at all.
Oh, they know.
Yes. So I love that. I love it. I think we do. We need to come to a point where we're recognizing our kids' efforts and letting them know that, yeah, there are some times when you are going to try the very best you can, and sometimes it's not good enough. Sometimes you just get an unlucky break. Mm-hmm. But we're proud that you put in the effort. And yeah, there's a winner and there's a loser, and losing sucks, but we still love you.
Yeah, and it's so important to let kids have those experiences, mm-hmm. because how else are they going to grow into functioning adults that can handle the ups and downs mm-hmm. that are inevitable mm-hmm. If they haven't practiced that with those smaller things when they were kids?
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling there are a lot of new adults who would like to kind of make that happen in the real world. Where there's no winners and losers and everybody gets a participation trophy. And that might be the better way to go. I don't know. It's above my pay grade, but I don't see how that happens.
I don't see how that could ever happen. No, I agree with you. There was kind of a generation of kids a few years ago that were raised, spending their downtime on their phones on their beds. Mm-hmm. Instead of out in the real life behind the mall or behind the rec center making mistakes mm-hmm. like we did. Yes. And they haven't experienced life in that regard. Mm-hmm. And then what happens in your early 20s, there you are. And, participation isn't always what matters.
Yeah. My wife and I were taking Augie the Wonder Dog out for a walk last night, and we walked by this, by the elementary school here in the neighborhood, and I just commented to her, I said, there is never any kids in the playground here at the school when I'm mm-hmm. walking the dog. It's a beautiful night. Last night was a beautiful night. It's right after dinner time. This place should be filled with kids, but they're not.
Yeah. So it's either that they're at home in their basements, mm-hmm. or a lot of times kids are so scheduled.
Right.
So that might not be that they're not being active. They might be being very active, mm-hmm. but at a scheduled activity, mm-hmm. And that's another issue I feel like these days is kids are overscheduled mm-hmm. and they're not given the time to go after dinner down to the neighborhood park and play and make their own rules and make their own games and just be a little bit wild, like we were in our day. They just don't have the freedom. And I feel like that's another thing that's so, so important and really lacking, sadly.
I agree with the people who've told you need to create a mindful mantras for parents. And one of them could be just chill out, parents. Your kids going to survive. Chill out. Chillax.
Chill out. They're going to be okay. Yeah.
It's a bruise. It's not terminal. So you've told us about 2 of the books in the Mindful Mantra series. Tell us about some of the others, please.
Sure. Well, I feel like I'm a big downer, but but my intention with all the books is to create positivity and to plant that positive self-talk into children's minds. And because I taught kindergarten, I feel like the 4 and 5-year-olds are my people. Like I get them and I get what they like. So there's silly things in the books for sure that parents don't agree with or interpret in a different way maybe, but kids love it. So the second book in my series is called I Matter. And when I was wondering which, affirmation to write about with my second book, there was a couple of instances in my local area, and I live in a small town, but of teenagers dying by suicide. And then I had another friend write to me and she said, I know you're sort of thinking about something along this topic and here's an article for you. And in the article, it was a letter from a friend to her recently passed friend saying, if I had one more thing to say to you, it would have been, you matter, you matter, you matter. And I thought, that's it. That's my next book. And the idea is, sorry.
No.
The idea is we don't always say the words. As adults, of course I love you. I'm zipping your zipper. I'm feeding you. I'm taking care of you. I'm making you go to bed. Of course you matter to me. And of course I love you, but that's not what the child sees, right? And so the idea of that book is to help children, interpret, other cues in their lives for figuring out that they really do matter, even when the words aren't said. So, cuddling with mommy or daddy or, going to school and helping the teacher and then seeing what the teacher looks like and just looking at the smile on the face or, making a baby laugh and realizing that or, caring for the environment even and realizing that those are all ways that they matter. And so really trying to reinforce how much children matter even though the words aren't said. So that was my second book. And my third book is I Will Be Okay. And so I have 3 kids. And the first book I named the character my first son, and the second was after my daughter, and so the third one, of course, had to be after my son. And so it's just, I will be okay. All of life's ups and downs, no matter how I feel and my big feelings of frustration and anxiety and anger and sadness, I'll be okay. At the end of the day, the feelings come and go, but I'll be okay.
Beautiful. This is, as you're talking, this is going to sound silly, and I don't mean it to. I feel like you've created this little toolbox for families of books that they can just pull out, and especially if you notice that there's something that's especially your kids having a hard time going through. This is a great book to pull out and to sit down and just read and experience together. And one of the things. I'm smiling now because I know my kids are, and we've done this with the international kids that we've hosted here in our home, and reminding those kids when they're 15, 16, 18, 20 that they matter. And I'm just thinking, if as a family, if you're sitting down with the Mindful Mantras series and you're reading that to your 3, 4, and 5-year-old. And that's in your family library forever, so that when that 3, 4, 5-year-old is in 4th grade and they have a tough day, you can pull out that book and read it together. When they're in middle school, they can pull out that book and sit down and read it together, and that would be such a valuable tool for a family to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. My intention just to help build up that positive self-talk before they're 15, and it's so much harder, to convince them.
Yeah.
You can say it till you're blue in the face, but will they really believe it when they're in those situations and in their teen years?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
And sometimes and we talk about this, and I'm sorry if I'm boring you, but it's so important. The time that you spend reading with your kids makes such a difference in their life. And just the fact that you're choosing to spend time away from the computer, away from the phone, sitting down, reading, talking with your kid, it makes a huge difference in their life.
So true.
Yeah.
A huge difference. Yeah. If I miss a couple of nights, I miss it. The kids miss it. We notice. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Or if my husband takes over for a couple of nights, the kids are still getting it, but I miss that time.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I used to, my kids are a little bit older right now, so we didn't have Skype, or at least I didn't know how to use it. And we didn't have FaceTime. And, so when I was on tour and I'd be away, I'd call home and I'd have a book and they'd have the book at home and I'd read to them over the phone. We couldn't see each other. But it gets to that point. And what a wonderful thing to have that habit that you're spending time with kids and you love it so much that when you're not there doing it, it hurts. What a beautiful hurt that would be to give yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that you called them and read to them.
Oh, yeah.
On the old phone attached to the wall.
Exactly. That's right. And a lot of times I was in a hotel hallway on the payphone.
There wasn't even a phone in the room.
But yeah, you should see some of the places I used to stay at. Anyways, one of the things I want to do is I know that I just learned that you do some time helping other authors make their dreams come true. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So it was very interesting to me. Once I had a couple of books under my belt, people were coming out of the woodwork. So people that I used to work with 10 years ago, mm-hmm. some teachers, somebody I worked with, at a restaurant serving, people from high school. And once I did it and shared about it and shared that vulnerability, other people started messaging me, or I'd get stopped on the street if I happened to run into somebody saying, I've always wanted to write a book as well. I have journals upon journals of books at home in my cupboard, but much like me, in the beginning, a lot of people don't know what to do or how to do it. And the whole traditional publishing model is very overwhelming mm-hmm. and, not as relevant anymore, which is so lovely. So we have the ability to publish ourselves and make all of the decisions and then reap all the rewards. And so what happened was so many people were contacting me. It was a little bit overwhelming and also quite light bulb moment-ish. Mm-hmm. I need to do something to help people. And I'm a teacher at heart. I really do love teaching. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily want to go back to the classroom, but I love teaching. So I've put together a variety of courses at different price points, and it's for people who haven't published yet mm-hmm. and who are really stuck. And this is on my bucket list, and I really want to write a children's book. Where do I start? What do I do? And then there's people who have already published and are really struggling to get sales. Mm-hmm. And that's so sad as well. You've put so much time and energy and your heart into your project and then you don't make any sales. And so it's not always about the money, but that is a certain sense of validation. If people mm-hmm. buy your book, okay, it wasn't just a pipe dream. I'm actually good. My ideas are good. My books are good. So I actually have another website, Creative Writer like my last name. And so there's courses housed there from things like how to decide if your idea is any good or not, because that stops a lot of people. I've mm-hmm. realized over the last year that, I don't know if it's good, so I'm not even going to move forward. So I give a really neat research tool to do Amazon research, mm-hmm. And try to figure out if your book idea is any good. And all the courses are there. And I also offer just a 10-minute consult to chat with people, see where they're at, see if I can help them in any way and, point them in the direction I think they should go.
Awesome. So that is creativewriter.com?
Yep.
And writer is spelled W-R-I-G-H-T-E-R?
That's correct.
Yes, that's the code. We don't want people just to go, it's not here.
No. Oh, I know. And I think I'm being so clever. It might be a little too clever at times.
No. Well, I did that with my stage name, Jedlie, and everybody spells it the wrong way. Well, no, I spelled it the wrong way. Everybody spells it right, and they can't find me. And also remind people where they can find out about your Mindful Mantra series.
Sure. They're all available on Amazon, of course. Mm-hmm. Laurie Wright is my name. And I have a website, lauriewriter.com. And so that kind of has everything about my books and my consulting and my courses. So it's Laurie Wrighter, LaurieWrighther.com.
Well, I'm really excited. Do we have a new Mindful Mantra book coming out?
We do.
Oh.
It's very exciting for me. I have a twist. I am starting the first in the mini Mindful Mantras. And so these books are going to be very set for the 1 to 3 year old range. And the first one is called, this is big news, first is called I Belong. And so it's just, a girl character and playing with all her different friends and she's just realizing, we all have eyes, we all have arms, we all have hair, we all have super capes sometimes, we all have wheels sometimes, all that, and always she says, I belong. So it's very, very simple for that young age group, but that's the idea that I'm hoping I can plant in those little tiny brains, and I belong no matter where the kids go. They belong. We're all human. We all belong.
Yeah. And I think I really think that's one of the best ways to start helping kids understand that people who are different than us belong. If we're comfortable with ourselves and if we know that we belong, then you're different. You belong too.
Yeah.
Come on over. We'll have some fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I would love to have you back on to talk about those books as they come out. So I'm just envisioning, I'm giving myself a mantra here that Laurie Wright's coming back to the show. Laurie Wright's coming back to the show.
I'd love to. This was fun and easy. So you bet.
We've been speaking today to the author of the Mindful Mantras series, Laurie Wright. Laurie, thanks so much for being part of the show.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Sandy Schwartz. She is known as the Happy Science Mom, and she'll be our next guest. Hey, if you are the author of a great children's book, you may want to be a future guest of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. The Reading with Your Kids podcast, we were nominated for the iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award. Really, really excited. We didn't win, but it was such an honor to be nominated. Our audience, we have a huge audience, and it's growing and growing every single month. Being a guest on the show is a fun and easy way for you to tell thousands and thousands of people about your great children's book. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button, let my producer Fatima know all about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank Laurie Wright for being here today. If you are a mom looking for a great book to read, check out her book, I Can Handle It. If you are an author, make sure you check out her website. She has lots of great advice, great resources for authors on her website. We also want to thank our sponsor, With the Courage of a Mouse, written by Donna Sager-Cowan. If you didn't catch Donna's appearance on the show, check out the archives. I mean, you don't have to go. You just go to the Reading with Your Kids podcast page and search out Donna Sager-Cowan. You can listen to her episode. It was a really, really fun episode. She tells us all about With the Courage of a Mouse. I also want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out her blog. Every time we publish an episode of the show, you can find Fatima's brand new blog up there on readingwithyourkids.com. I also have to thank my beautiful wife who gives me so much support and pushes me to be better and better every single day, even though I'm almost 100 years old. And I also want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.